A while back, I was listening to a YouTube video from the CFR called Conversations with Jamie Dimon. In this video, he mentioned this easier Chapter 14 bankruptcy. I was familiar with a Chapter 7 and a Chapter 13, but I really didn't know what a Chapter 14 was, so I went down the rabbit hole and Googled it. I discovered that this Chapter 14 doesn't exist and is a proposal. But not only that, it's not something real recent. This was proposed, this Chapter 14 bankruptcy was proposed by the Republican Party at the same time the Dodd-Frank bill came from the Democratic Party, and it has a history as H.R. 3310. Now, the link is going to be down in the description box, and I'm not going to get into exactly what that is other than to say Dodd-Frank is to the Democrat Party, as is H.R. 3310 is to the Republican Party. So right off the bat, I'm like, okay, this can't be good. So I went further down the rabbit hole. And in going down that rabbit hole, I discovered on the Federal Reserve of Richmond, Virginia's website, a proposal for this Chapter 14 in the form of PDF. And I printed it out in case they decide to take it down if it gets too much attention or whatever. And the proposal is drawn up by the Working Group on Economic Policy at the Hoover Institute at Stanford University. It's written by a few of the authors of this book, which I just got in the mail a couple weeks ago, and I haven't read it yet, and I'm going to, and I doubt it's something I'm going to keep in my library, so I want to pass it along to one of you after I'm done reading it, because I want to keep the information flowing. Or you can go get your own copy. Get that up there. You can get your own copy. I think I paid like $5 for this on eBay, and I think this was the only one listed. Okay, and I went and I looked up the reviews of it, and there were like a handful of reviews. And they basically were like, oh, there's a lot of terminology, and that doesn't scare me because I know how to use a dictionary. Okay, so I will let you know what's in this when I read it. Okay, this is my next book to read, and I'll probably start it tomorrow. So in the meantime, I wanted to, not to educate you on this because I want you to do your own thinking, but I want to bring your attention to this, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to read the introduction, and I will touch on a couple of things here in the first 6 pages that should set off alarm bells in your head, because this is the weapon of mass financial destruction right here. They are going to tailor their own bankruptcy code. They want their own very special set of Article 3 district court judges to funnel cases to. And this will allow them to conduct their corruption outside of the regular bankruptcy court. And I'm just going to say that for right now. Okay? All right. So this chapter 14 bankruptcy, the introduction. This paper describes several proposed changes to the Bankruptcy Code that are designed for and limited to the reorganization or liquidation of the nation's largest financial institutions. The proposed changes create a new Chapter 14 of the Bankruptcy Code and incorporate features of liquidations under Chapter 7 as well as reorganizations under Chapter 11. In addition, the proposed Chapter 14 contains a number of substantive and procedural changes designed especially for the complexity and potential systematic consequences of the failure of these large financial institutions. Through these changes, we believe it possible to take advantage of a judicial proceeding, including explicit rules designated in advance and honed through published judicial precedent with appeals challenging the application of those rules, public proceedings, and transparency in such a way as to minimize the felt necessity to use the alternative government agency resolution process recently enacted as part of the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act. The new chapter could be adopted either in addition or as an alternative to the new resolution regime of Dodd-Frank. The crucial feature of this new Chapter 14 is to ensure that the covered financial institutions, creditors dealing with them, and other market participants know in advance, in a clear and predictable way, how losses will be allocated if the institution fails. If the creditors of a failed financial institution are protected, parentheses, bailed out, then the strongest and most rapidly responding constraint on risk-taking by the financial institution's management is destroyed, and their losses are transferred onto others. In the following sections, we explain the features of this new Chapter 14 by A, outlining existing bankruptcy provisions that we propose to amend or replace, B, summarizing perceived weaknesses in those provisions that this proposal addresses, and C, outlining the nature of the statutory provisions that are designed to address these weaknesses. The statutory changes can be encompassed with 4 basic categories. 1. The creation of a new Chapter 14. 2. The commencement of Chapter 14 case. 3. The role of the primary regulator in Chapter 14 and special rules regarding debtor in possession financing for purposes of prepayments to certain creditors. And they go on later in the bill to, which I'm not going to touch in this video, but they do go on to define these institutions as liquidity sensitive. So we can all see where this is going, right? Okay, following that, we provide in summary form a list of changes we propose and the likely place in either the Bankruptcy Code or in Title 28, which is the jurisdictional title, to make those changes. The creation of a new Chapter 14. Define a financial institution. Right now, under current law, there is no special definition of financial institution, and these are their concerns. Bankruptcy seems to be undervalued as a potential solution to the liquidation or reorganization of complex financial institutions, including in the 2010 congressional debate over financial reform, in part because of a view that the default of one or more of the nation's largest and most complex financial institutions is A, outside the competence of the bankruptcy system, B, unable to be resolved in a timely fashion in a judicial proceeding, and C, likely to have systemic consequences that an adversarial system which depends on parties in interest withstanding before the court is ill-equipped to do so. So regular court's fine for everybody else and for these smaller financial institutions, but not for these very special financial institutions. And here's what they propose. In order to craft a bankruptcy process that is responsive to the special needs of the nation's largest financial institutions, it is necessary to create a special set of rules and procedures for such financial institutions. This starts, most fundamentally, with the need to provide, in the Bankruptcy Code, a definition of the financial institutions that would be covered by these special procedures and rules. Because many of the concerns focus on the nation's largest institutions, and you gotta love the wording of this, with no strong sense that existing procedures are insufficient for other financial institutions, the definition should not only define what is a financial institution, but it should also set a threshold for the size of the institution before invoking these special rules and procedures we propose. The definition we propose would define a financial institution for bankruptcy, and hence Chapter 14, purposes as an institution that is substantially engaged in providing financial services or financial products and includes any subsidiaries of such institution. To eliminate purely local financial institutions, you're going to love this part, the definition would include a minimum asset size of $100 billion for the combined enterprise, a figure that should have a mechanism for adjustment with changes in the financial system. So, they can raise that bar once, we're carrying around a few of these in our pockets, then, then everybody's going to be a billionaire or a millionaire. And of course, we need to raise the stakes. So we need to make it elastic enough to be able to do that at will, right?